remember our last conversation when you told me the artifacts made you feel like raw energy was coursing through your veins? Well, it got me thinking. So I dove into our archives and started looking through Constellation's older journal entries. Just because I wasn't familiar with the experience you described doesn't mean the same might have been true for my predecessor. Unfortunately, no. Other than you and Barrett, there were no records of direct encounters with the artifacts. I have to admit, though, I did get more than a bit sidetracked reminiscing about old times. Really? I'm surprised that I haven't. After reading those journals, all of the pleasant memories of my time spent with Aja just started flooding back. Aja Mamasa. She was the youngest member of Constellation when it was founded. Only took her 15 years to reach chair. Sorry, I sometimes get so caught up in my own bubble, I forget that I wasn't the first. Oh yes, absolutely. I didn't mean to compare. Those were just... oh, I don't know. Different times. Aja was the one that taught me the ropes at Constellation and took me under her wing as her protégé. Yeah, I thought so too. That's why I adopted her methods. You know, Aja and I logged quite a few interesting discoveries together. But it was the journey itself that I'll never forget. We catalogued unusual stellar phenomena, a few habitable worlds, and some unique life forms, but nothing SSNN would bother to report. Exactly. For me, it was all about the quieter moments. There was nothing quite like sitting back and watching space bend, while listening to Aja spin vivid stories to fill the time. Oh, I find that sort of cozy isolation the best way to really get to know someone. Yeah, you know, being alone in interstellar space, nothing but light years of black around you. Some people find that terrifying. I find it comfortable. It helps me bond with my shipmates. At this point, I'd say you've graduated from protégé and moved up the ladder. A bit. You know, all this talk about Aja reminds me that my time with her was a gift. I miss her dearly. No, she retired. Living on Porima 2 now, I think. Come to think of it, if we're ever out that far, perhaps we could pay her a visit, and I could make proper introductions. Yeah, you'll do. Look, I don't expect you to be an exact copy of Aja. Your hunger for exploration, to pierce the veil and seek the unknown, it's a common bond that we share. I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't know if I deserve to be that close to anyone right now. If you knew about the things that I've done, the way my life's unfolded, I think your opinion of me might change. Please, give me some time. I have to go. I've lived in New Atlantis almost my entire life, and I had no idea this place even existed. The UC certainly excels at keeping secrets.
Authorized entry, unsealing access. You may proceed down the corridor. But there are no additional visitors permitted. Your friend's gonna have to wait out here.
I'll be fine. You go on ahead.
President Abeyo was kind enough to give me a few files to peruse. Quite the series of accomplishments you've managed. But now you face a foe unlike any other. An invisible enemy, lurking in the shadows. You're going to need all the help you can get, which is why I hoped we could speak. Do you know who I am? Not quite. I'm Francois Sanon, but most know me as Vae Victus. I was an admiral during the Colony War. One of its great villains, if you believe the slates. I was to be executed for my crimes, but the previous regime deemed me too valuable to simply discard. So they put me here, a sacrifice on the altar of peace. Even my death served the colonies. One final act of rebellion by the leadership that lost the Colony War. The trial was authentic. I faced tribunal with dignity, but my execution, staged. A lethal injection that was anything but. The cabinet at the time, long gone now, wished to keep me on as an advisor, and considering the other option, I was in no place to refuse. So I elected to trade my freedom for my continued existence. But such is the life of a soldier. To warrant my execution, the official charges I faced after the war were twofold. The first was the destruction of civilian ships during the Battle of Cheyenne, a battle during which those civilian ships were actively attacking my fleet. The other was ordering the bombing of the Londinian spaceport to halt the spread of the Terramorph outbreak there. The city and its citizens were lost, but countless others likely saved. And for doing what was right, I was put on trial, and my life irrevocably changed. Captain, please. There are no clean hands in galactic politics. We all do what we must to keep ourselves safe. Which, right now, means finding a way to protect the United Colonies and beyond from additional Terramorph attacks. An effort you and my progeny Hadrian have already made impressive progress on, and I'd like to help. Though I am curious, has she shared with you the nature of our little family? Did she? So willing to trust Hadrian. I never did succeed in driving that out of her. Our relationship has always been a challenging one. The Major was born to become a great leader, carry on the legacy I established, and was given all the finest training to support it. And she excelled. But the universe cut all that short. Now, though, it's placed even more crucial work in front of the two of you. And I think I have a part to play in helping you accomplish what you've set out to do. It was an attempt by the United Colonies to solidify its own legacy, forging a new generation of great leaders. They were raised by adoptive families made up of scholars and tacticians, trained at the United Colonies' greatest scientific and military academies, displayed incredible promise. But by the time the Colony War came to a close, there was only Hadrian. But that's ancient history now. You have much more pressing matters at hand, with which I can help. After some long years earning the trust of this current regime, the UC has been permitting me to work alongside one of their recovery teams, helping them gather intelligence on, locate, and organize scenarios to lure in some of the criminals that evaded justice after the Colony War. With quite a few successes, I might add. But in the process, I managed to find something else. The names and locations of Hadrian and Percival's old research team. Valuable manpower for the effort you're about to embark on. I'll tell you where they are, but in exchange, I need something dealt with. Well, who better to find them? But many of them I knew personally, and I've always had a mind for details. Where someone was born, next of kin. You'd be shocked how often an otherwise brilliant criminal flees to the planet just next to the one where they were born, or where a family member resides. I simply use my own personal knowledge and the information our group collects for me to track them down and set things right. One task. That's all I require. There is a former colleague of mine, a man by the name of Dr. Reginald Orlase. Like myself and Hadrian, he was involved in some of the United Colonies' more problematic lines of research. Mech weapons were his specialty. If it dealt death, he could make a deal more. When the Colony War ended, he fled, refusing to face tribunal, and has continued to peddle his skills to the highest bidder to this day. But I finally found him. I want you to track him down and deal with him, however you're able. I'm not expecting he'll come quietly. Bring me evidence that the job's done, and I'll tell you what I know. Captain, your files indicate a track record of unlikely successes. It is my genuine hope that, perhaps down the line, you might become a part of our team. And this might be something of a tryout. Speak to Deputy MacIntyre. I'm sure she'd be happy to hear that someone might be tying up this loose end at long last. Though I would ask you, do not make the mistake of confusing me for a simple cutthroat. You can certainly try, but the man's been out there 20 years. He's likely gone feral by now. Easier for all if you simply blow up his ship and be done with it. If that's what you require to sleep at night, so be it. According to my information, he's been hiding around the world of Etheria, Wolf System. There's a star station in the vicinity, the Den. The head of the local vanguard, one Captain Marquez, should be able to help you find our man.
Identity verified. You may proceed to the exit.
What can I help you with? Excellent.
Okay. Hello.
Captain, did your meeting go well? I hope it's clear now why we needed you to agree to all the secrecy. Captain, please, keep your voice down. The situation with the prisoner is a complex one. A holdover from a different era. But it's a situation we've been managing as discreetly and humanely as we can for some time now. And the most critical part of that management is making sure no one else learns of it. Do I make myself clear? The Major doesn't have clearance for this sort of information, and she certainly doesn't need a distraction from her current, very important work. Which is why I need you to keep this to yourself. Short of jailing you? No, you're right. But in this moment, I think it would be a big mistake to tell her. Though I presume he didn't call you down there simply to discuss his daughter. Dr. Reginald Orlase? He's finally found him. Of course, killing Orlase is completely out of the question. But bringing him to justice... He's been on the lam for years. That'd be a huge win for the UC. What's being offered in return? Really? He found the members of the research team. We'd already initiated a search for them, but it'd save a lot of time and manpower if he just gave us that information. Captain, if that's the deal, you have my endorsement. Just so long as you make every effort to bring the man in alive. Now, was there anything else you wanted to discuss regarding your meeting? Trusting the man downstairs would be a mistake, but I don't think you need to be too concerned. This is far from the first name he's handed over, and all previous missions went off largely without a hitch. So while I'd certainly warrant caution, I think you can proceed. The Den? It's a star station, orbiting Wolf, the second star station actually to bear that title. The first one was blown to smithereens by House Varun during the Serpent's Crusade. The place has always acted as a remote strategic hub, primarily for repairing and refueling UC military vessels. But because of its distance from the rest of the UC, things there have always been a little more lax. Patrols included. I can think of worse places in the galaxy for a criminal to hide out. Then I'll bid you good day, Captain, and remind you of the importance of discretion.
I just don't think we'll have a second date. I barely survived the first one.
Well, you know what they say.
I've flown across most of the settled systems in all manners of spacecraft, and yet I still get sick on the gnat.
Hey there. Be careful if you run into the
Need to move on.
Appreciate the lift. Once we touch down in Aquila, we'll talk more. My junk is now, well, your junk.
Dad and I will be riding passenger with you. The most boring job in space travel. I want to fly my own ship and go all over the place. Like you and Dad, really. But hopefully not as crazy as your travels. I thought Dad's were exciting. But yours? Brr. I read. I look around the ship, but no touching. Dad lets me do all sorts of stuff on his ship. But he said I have to be respectful on your ship. But I could try to fix things if you ask. Hint, hint. You can ask. I promise I'll be good. It's the best. I met another kid my age who hadn't been on a starship once. Not even once! Same boring old planet for like years. She didn't even know how to replace a phase manifold. Can you imagine? Yup, I've been his co-pilot since I was old enough to read a map. He lets me fly sometimes, and fix things aboard, and use the intercom and everything. I just have to promise not to complain about having to stay aboard the ship when we're somewhere dangerous. Dad says when I'm older, he'll teach me how to use a pistol, and once I'm a good enough shot, I can go with him anywhere. I can't wait to get older.
Welcome to the den. If you have business, feel free to land.
When you have a moment. Here, I have something for you. Oh, you're incorrigible. I picked it up on one of our latest planetary expeditions. I'm more than just an extra gun, you know. I'm just pleased I get to utilize some of my old field collecting skills. It's been a while. Check back with me from time to time after we return from our planetary jaunts. If I pick anything up, it's all yours.
Anything I can help you with?
Well, this station's seen better days. I wonder if the UC will ever fully restore it to its former glory.
Okay, sure. We'll take care of any holes, broken seals, that kind of thing. Okay, no problem.
Ah, a new customer. Welcome. Welcome to the Trade Authority. I'm Marcel, and if there's anything I can do for you, please, do let me know. Our stock may not be as vast as New Atlantis or Sidonia, but I will do my best to see that you leave here satisfied. And seeing as the Trade Authority is the only fully licensed operator for the Den, I'm afraid your alternatives are, shall we say, slim. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, and I hope this and all future interactions are profitable for both of us. If there are deals to be made, you'll find that we'll go to great lengths to take advantage of them. My primary role here is to oversee logistics operations for our many trade routes in the area, but I convinced my superiors that it was worth setting up something more customer-oriented. I'm told that they are quite pleased with the results. It's very kind of you to offer, but I am currently not in a position to personally require your services. There are, however, likely some Trade Authority contracts available at the terminal down in the bar. I'm sure you're already aware that the Trade Authority is quite generous when it comes to completing said contracts. Certainly.
I try not to trade in gossip, but if you have any verifiable information, I'm all ears. I really did think this place would see a bit more action. Well, I certainly feel that way. The Vanguard pilots don't seem to want to associate with me. And I don't agree with Mr. Romack's views on the Colony War, so there are few options left to me. You know, I really thought volunteering for this assignment was going to be the boost to my career that I was looking for. Now I suspect even SSNN has forgotten about me. But that's not at all what I'm doing. I feel like no one is listening to me. Why, certainly. The Settled Systems News Network is the longest-running news service in... well, the Settled Systems. Reporters are dispatched all over, keeping an ear to the ground for some breaking news that should be known to everyone. It can, admittedly, be a bit of a pain making sure those stories reach our central office in New Atlantis. But until someone invents faster-than-light communication, it's the best we can do. Au revoir, as they say.
Don't let Orval get to you. Just smile, take your drink, and be on your way. Best for everyone. You know, that's a good question. I do stuff for Orval sometimes, odd jobs or whatever, when he's not annoying. But I think technically I get paid by the Vanguard. Well, now I'm just crushed. I might need to take the rest of the day off to recover emotionally. Ooh, well, that depends on who you ask. Orval over there is still stuck in the glory days when this was the domain of the UC military brass and all their hangers-on. You can't see those days are never coming back. The Vanguard pilots, they mostly just resent guarding the ass end of nowhere. Rayna's okay, I guess. She seems to really care about the mission. And me? Well, it's as good a place as any to be stuck, I guess. Yep. See ya.
Time was this place would be full of pilots, soldiers, and well-to-do types. And look at it now. Hey there. Ain't seen you before. What brings you to the den? Ah, man with a purpose. Good, I like that. Don't worry, I won't ask questions. I know well as anyone that secrets ought to stay secret. Well, you're welcome here, so long as I don't hear you disrespecting the United Colonies military. You got a problem with our history or our heroes? And you can find somewhere else to get yourself a drink. Clear? Tell me something I don't know. You should have seen this place 30 years ago. UC's best and brightest were in and out of here all the time. But then the Colony War and, well, most folks don't like to be honest about that. I ain't one to turn my back on those who saved us in those days. And because I won't dishonor the memory of Vae Victus, business dries up. Ain't my problem that people don't like to face the reality of what happens in wartime. Man was a hero, not a traitor. Oh, he was a brilliant man. Just brilliant. Best leader we could have asked for in a crisis. He made the tough decisions no one else could. Did what needed to be done. Saved our asses. And when it was over, they turned on him. Called him a traitor and executed him. Just shameful. Well, not all of us are just gonna go along with rewriting history. Some of us remember. We saw it happen. Vae Victus sacrificed everything to save the United Colonies. That's what a real hero does. Well, now that depends. You support the UC? Consider yourself a patriot? Now that's what I like to hear. All right, maybe you can help me out. Had some posters made up a while back to remind folks of the good work Vae Victus has done for all of us. Try and push back against all the lies the government tells. I'd put them up here, but that's, caused some friction with the Vanguard pilots. I hate to see them go to waste, though. If a strong-willed, patriotic individual, such as yourself, were to make sure some of them were placed where they could inspire the people of the United Colonies, well, that'd be something. And there'd be some credits in it for anyone helping out the UC. What do you think? I was thinking the well might be a good spot. People down there might be more receptive, don't you think? That's the spirit. All right. Posters are in the back there, and you just let me know when you're done. Long live the UC.
You're out there a lot, right? In space? Just do us all a favor and never turn into one of those spacers. Scum of the galaxy. Robbing, stealing, killing. Even the Crimson Fleet don't trust them.
Another day, another shift.
I am, hands down, the best pilot in this dump. Don't let anyone tell you different. Only a matter of time before I get promoted out of here. You kidding? It's what I was born to do. Wait, I mean flying is what I was born to do. This Vanguard thing? Temporary. Only a matter of time before I get called up to the Navy. Before you know it, I'll be a captain. No, wait. Admiral. Yeah. What does it matter? I'm gonna be out of here before you can blink, and this will all be behind me. That reporter didn't put you up to this, did he? I already told him. It was a misunderstanding. An accident. My flight record was spotless otherwise. Well, yeah. Why wouldn't I be? Oh, right. You haven't seen me fly. If you had, you'd know how good I am. What? I'm not advertising anything. I'm a pilot. For the Vanguard. Are you even paying attention? I'd offer to let you fly along on my next mission, but, oh, man, I nearly forgot. Listen, I need a favor. I've got an application in for a promotion in the Vanguard, but I haven't heard anything back. It's been a while. Their reply must have gotten lost along the way. It happens. We're really far from New Atlantis. Anyway, would you mind going there and following up for me? Yeah, I mean, probably, but you know how it goes. I leave here and then something terrible happens and I have all this guilt because I wasn't here to save everyone. Just like that? Wow, that's great! I'm not gonna forget that you're doing this for me. This is just the start of my climb up the ranks. You'll see. Okay, you're gonna want to talk to Commander Tuala. I'm sure he's aware of me because I've sent him a few messages now. Just bring back whatever message for me so I can get out of here, okay? Really appreciate it. Okay then.
Looking to lodge a complaint? Then you want UC security, not the Vanguard. Oh, apologies, Captain. Didn't recognize you without the uniform. So, what can I do for you? Orlase. Doesn't ring a bell. Anything you can tell me about him? A man? Living around Etheria. The gas giant. Only one ship like that I know of. Never docks. Doesn't respond to hails. They call it the Warlock. Maybe this Orlase of yours is the one piloting it. I can give you the coordinates to its last sighted location if you want. Just, well, you'll need to be careful. That part of Etheria's sky is an old debris field. Plenty dangerous. More than a few scrappers heading out never came back. Well, the original Den Star Station was destroyed decades ago during the Serpent's Crusade by marauding House Varun zealots. Big part of the remains from those battles ended up gathering around Etheria, forming a nasty debris field. Every now and then, some headstrong scrapper comes limping back because they hit an 80-year-old mine. Or sometimes they don't come back at all. I honestly thought it was just a story board haulers told each other to keep themselves amused. Pretty surprised to find out he has a name. Like, finding out the Grim Reaper's named Mitch or something. Huh. Makes you wonder, though. Ships have been disappearing in those fields for years. Going theory on why was a combination of old ordnance and Etheria's gravity disappearing them. But maybe someone's been helping them over the ledge. Things you should know? The den's not really that kind of place. This is a quiet assignment. Keep an eye out for pirates, make sure smuggling's kept to a minimum, occasional rescue job out in the debris fields. Otherwise, it's mostly long haulers and staying ready for the day the Collective wants another round, or House Varun comes back in force. Sure thing. Here, this should get you pointed in the right direction. Go get your man.
Just doesn't add up. Spaceport has anti-Xeno protocols. How the hell does a whole herd of terramorphs touch down undetected?
So, where to next? Rise and shine. We've got things to do. I'm not sure how well our equipment is going to handle this heat. You need to get rid of some of that gear.
Authorized personnel only. Your friend has to stay here.
Welcome back, Captain. Do you have some news for me regarding Dr. Orlase? I'm not surprised. The man fled every consequence he ever faced. Of course, you don't expect me to just take you at your word, do you? I'd say it'd be a waste of your and Hadrian's time to have to track down the research team on your own. Surely you found something. Excellent. Please, deposit it in the transfer system.
Transfer accepted.
Would you look at that? Kept it all these years. Some simply couldn't let go of that old world. This is fine work, Captain. I can ensure the remaining team members find their way to the Red Devil's headquarters. Except for one. That one you'll need to collect yourself. His name is Kaiser. You can find him on the Freestar world of Nira, wandering the battlefield there. The area was ground zero for xeno-weapon deployments during the war, so I would arm yourself appropriately. And I think you'll want to check in with Hadrian and Dr. Walker before paying it a visit. Kaiser will likely have security protocols you'll need their help to overcome. I dedicated my life to the United Colonies. Every effort of my being to their protection. I even gave them my heirs. Even if my circumstances have changed, my purpose has not. A military Model A, yes. Specifically customized for the needs of the Xeno warfare team during the Colony War. A powerful resource, if you can recover him. Of course. We're protecting the galaxy, Captain. We'll need every tool at our disposal.
Authorized personnel only. Your friend has to stay here.
Yes? Lead the way.
Had a question? Okay, didn't see that one coming. No need to say any more. I know what it's about. He's convinced he deserves a promotion, which to him means a transfer, a command post, maybe a new ship and a big office. Do you know him well? What do you think of him? Not the first time I've heard that. Clearly patience isn't his strong suit. I thought the constant stream of messages was a bit much, but if he's gonna be sending people here... Alright, I received some good advice from someone in the Vanguard recently, and I'm gonna run with it. I'd like you to deliver this message to Bastien on my behalf, the full authority of Vanguard leadership. He's gonna be the first and only recipient of a new commendation. Quite an honor. I hope he appreciates it. Please, give him my regards.
Another day, another credit.
Good news. They're gonna let me pitch my presentation at the meeting tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Dad? Will you read to me tonight before bed?
Read to you? Sure. I'd like that very much. You haven't asked me to do that in a long time.
And will you do funny voices for the characters? Like you used to when I was little?
You just try and stop me.
When you have a moment, I'd like to speak to you.
Well, that was fun. When you have a few moments, there's something I'd like to discuss. Thanks for taking time to chat. I really need a friendly ear right about now. I received a message from Constellation, and it's given me a lot to think about. No, it's nothing like that. It's just a list of requests. Things I would normally handle if I was there. But I'm not. I'm out here instead with you. No, it's the first time. But the fact that they're reaching out, well, it's given me a lot to think about. You're not keeping me out here. I am. Just... Here, let me explain. Before I joined Constellation, I served for 8 years as the head of the Navigator Corps, until the UC decided to axe the department. It was a branch of the United Colonies Navy. a small fleet of ships outfitted for galactic exploration. Basically, a military version of Constellation. If you want to help, I feel like I need to give you some background. Just bear with me. Had we notched some significant achievements, I'd agree with you. You see, the top brass demanded press-worthy discoveries to justify the spending, and money was tight after the war. Shutdown was inevitable. At the end of the day, I was in charge, so the blame obviously fell on my shoulders. Seriously? The Colony War, of course. You know, that little incident that caused the death of thousands of decent men and women as they squabbled over border disputes. That war. Oh, like hell I can't. You once told me that you favored the journey over the destination. So I'm hoping you'll understand what I'm trying to say. I failed because I was more concerned about exploring the stars than pushing a pencil. If I had fought harder, I'm convinced our division may have had a chance to prove its value. That depends on your definition of significant. Discover a rare neutron star, and no one cares. But slap a picture of a kooky alien life form on SSNN, and suddenly you're a goddamn rock star. It's all about the propaganda, what gets the people excited. That's what the United Colonies was focused on at the time. That's just it, though. Did I push too hard? Did they shut us down because I wasn't quietly sitting at my desk approving meaningless memos? We'll never know. Well, that brings us to this message now, doesn't it? Call it whatever you want. My drive, my initiative, my optimism. It's been my greatest strength and my worst nightmare. It elevates me to these positions of authority, but all I want to do is explore, not sit and make sure all the accounts are balanced. Yes, exactly. If it's obvious to you, imagine how obvious it is to someone like Barrett or Mateo. Oh, they must be itching to replace me by now. God damn it. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. Oh, here you are trying to help me and I'm yelling at you. You have to understand. Once Aja retired, I lost the only person that gave a damn. Look, it's clear that you have feelings for me. It's just, I've never had time for this sort of thing in my life. Please, it's not you, it's me. I'm just not ready to get that close. I can't. Not now. But thank you for being there and listening. It helped. It really did.
Hey, what can I do for you? Need some work done? Okay, sure. We'll take care of any holes, broken seals, that kind of thing.
I am, hands down, the best pilot in this dump. Don't let anyone tell you different. You look like you've got news. It better be good news. Okay, come on, don't keep me in suspense. When do I ship out? What? How could it be better? Oh, come on, quit messing with me and just tell me already. Wow, really? Let's see. Unique in the history of the Vanguard. That's good, right? Okay, finally some real recognition. Thanks for doing the legwork here. I'm not gonna forget that you helped me out. And someday, when I'm running the Vanguard, I'm gonna make sure you get paid big time. For now, though, my account's a little light, so this is the best I can do. But really, I mean it. I'm gonna remember this.
did think this place would see a bit more action.
I'd heard the den wasn't quite living up to its old standards, but this... oh, it's definitely worse than I expected.
We should be grateful for the sacrifices made by our military, not embarrassed by them. You get those posters up, people will notice, trust me. This is for your effort, Patriot. Don't spend it all in one place. Long live the UC!
Spacesuit.
And complete. Enjoy your stay in New Atlantis.
Can't think of a better place to recharge and ready ourselves for our next mission.